Like the
You
whole
say
done.
this on today, the day of them beating Team Liquid?
Yeah, like
Oh,
They
after
beat
they
Team Liquid
won.
today.
wait, they
Yeah,
did? Okay, cut,
Yes.
cut, 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 cut. I was on the plane. I have an excuse. They beat TL?
I wasn't
They did.
expecting that at all. Yeah, they did.
They beat Team Liquid?
Yeah. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Salt Mine. This is Season 5, Episode 4, where we're going to do a little of a scuffed one this time, all right? We missed last week. We all had a bunch of stuff going on. Now we all still have a bunch of stuff going on, but we needed to put something out here. So I'm joined by TDS. TDS, how's it going, man?
Sad for this week. Sad we missed last one, but like you're mentioning, real life stuff ended up happening, and then this is Easter, so
Yeah.
was bound to have more complications just now. But hey, we still had a lot of games and a lot of matches in multiple places. Excited that we're able to be in multiple places as well, just based off like the cast of Slayer, myself, you, and Quax. So we were able to cover quite a lot of it, and NACL got, I would say, spicy with some of the results that ended up happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get into NACL in a second. But yeah,
Yeah.
so TDS is here for now. You're going to have to depart, I guess, before too long, TDS. But Quax is returning from a flight, and Slayer is on a Seawall cast right now.
Yep.
So as other people finish their own stuff, hopefully other people will come in. Um, but yeah, it's not going to be possible to get the whole crew together this week, but we want to make sure to chat about a few things. Also, our partnership with ACL is renewed this split. ACL doesn't stand for anything anymore, so I will not be.
We're looking for acronym
Yeah, we
names.
are
I'm trying to
LFA.
fill it out.
Yeah, we are LFA right now, but it's the Aegis Uncapped League. You guys are very familiar with it. We've been partnered with them for the last couple of splits. We are still partnered with them this split, so we're gonna fit in some time to talk about ACL, who just had the first and last places of the new GSL group stage announced. So we will chat about those guys a little bit as well as we come into the third and final week of the GSL stage
Yep.
at time of recording. So plenty of stuff to talk about. But let's start things off with the NACL. So as we now find ourselves at the end of week 4, TDS, we have had 4 weeks completed out of the total 7. So we're pretty much at the halfway mark. We've made it
Yeah.
about halfway through a split. Everybody's played 4 or 5 series, and that's really, that's the best indicator you have for when you're halfway through. So how are we feeling all in all about like the tiers we're dividing the teams into? I know we talked about this a bit off recording, and I have my own opinion, but I want to start with you.
So, like I feel like we're pretty much in agreement with the vibe that is coming through here because like the top three feels uncontested, unmovable in a way. Like even when it was looking like maybe conviction or CCG could jump up onto that place, then you get like a reality check that no, that's not the case. Maybe before that could have been more of a reality. Right now, it feels like it's set in stone that the top three is the top three, and then the rest need to catch up to them. But at the very least, like the top three, then the next two, which are Conviction and CCG, are doing a really good job at staying as close as possible. I don't think that the divide between them and the top three is as big as it is with the bottom five, but at the very least, there's a much better chance of contention. And then even in the bottom five, I think it's a medium bottom four, and then a last place team, 100%.
Yeah,
Sadly,
you got Pulse heavily in last in your book.
yeah,
I think it's so. First of all, I largely agree. I think it's a top 3, a middle 2, and a bottom 5. I think it's tough for me. I think to say that Pulse is like far and away fifth. Um, I mean, I think they are fifth out of those 5, so 10th. Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to say that Pulse is like far and away 10th, just because they've done, I think, a little better than we might have expected, right? They took a game off
yeah.
of AMI, they took a game off of Winthrop. So like the fact that they're being able to kind of drag these series out against other teams that we have in this kind of poor tier, gives me a little bit of hope. But the only match they have left against those teams is Supernova. So if they're gonna win a series, it's gonna have to come in Week 7 against Supernova, and I feel like Supernova's scaling up a little bit, so that seems like it might get a little bit more difficult. But I don't know. Supernova this week though, certainly against Dark Zero, they certainly didn't look great, but I feel like nobody's looked great against Dark Zero.
I feel like the only time where Dark Zero looked like maybe they could like get something taken off of them was when Polestar were against them in the first week, and even then, I feel like it was more just like time. It was a long time before we actually saw Dark Zero back with as a team. So like maybe that played into play here because in reality, Dark Zero is 100% the team to beat. Then you have, I feel like with the scaling from NA certainly looks like the second team to beat as of now, and then Luminosity a little bit below, which is a little bit weird to say considering that Luminosity beat near airport. But I just feel like at the time that we're recording this, the high that near airport is coming with feels much better than what Luminosity is coming with, and it just makes me feel like they are ramping up much better. Where the third team sadly doesn't feel like that, and in that sense, like really losing against any of these teams is nothing to be shamed of when you think about it. I feel like the fight between the other teams is where you're looking for playoff fight and also for relegation fight. Which, if you take out Polestar from that conversation, thinking that they are pretty much already doomed, which they kind of are, considering that they are already 0-5. That it's really difficult for them because they have what 3 matches remaining,
Yeah.
so like they need to win all of them, and they are against both Conviction and CCG, which should be Conviction and CCG wins, and then Supernova, which on paper, just based on standings, that could be the closest one. But then again, I think Supernova is favored.
Yeah, so let's wrap back to the top three then. I think I
Okay.
agree with you on, yeah, despite the head-to-head from back in week 1,
Yeah.
that was week 1, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah, the
do
very
think,
first match actually.
yeah, it was the first day. I do agree. I think I have NA over Luminosity right now. Feels like the last couple of weeks has really been this is the stupidest thing I've ever said on this show, but it's like the emergence of Pobelter, right? He's like it's
That in
the
a vacuum,
coldest take of all
I didn't
time, but
think. Yeah, I don't think I would ever say anything like that in a vacuum. But then again, we remember like the context, and yeah, it makes sense actually in a
yeah, no,
little bit.
he's had some very very good, like the Lysandra games
Yeah.
in particular have stood out to me. He's had some pretty strong Talia games as well, if I'm not mistaken. Although I may be mixing those up with Insanity games in my head. Um, but yeah, he's had some very, very solid performances over the last 2 weeks since we've last checked in on this show. His Azir was really, really good.
Yep.
And then, yeah, that pair of very, very strong Lysandra games have definitely stood out to me. Yeah, I think the Talia game I'm thinking of was actually Insanity, who's also played quite well. But the thing
Yeah, it's a
about,
top three mid laner.
yeah, I mean,
100%.
the thing about Luminosity is that they are the kind of team that can sometimes drop games to Blue Otter, as they have, and it feels like other than when they are like absolutely giga blasting their opponents, which they have gotten to do against Winthrop and Pulse, so they've done it
Yeah.
quite a few times in the last couple of weeks. But throughout the season so far, when they're not giga blasting their opponents, they have tended to let the game drag on very, very long. I think even with those quick wins, they have the longest average game time in the league, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, it just really shows. It just feels like until they can piece together the team fights and just win that through their general mastery and tactical's good team fighting and Insanity's good team fighting, that they have really struggled to close out games.
Which is something that it's surprising considering not only the fact that these are Excelsius players, but also like players that have really good idea of what they're looking to do, because like the team, the way that the team was set up was pretty straightforward in the way that we were expecting them to play, which was carry bot lane, play normal top, no problem at all with that, and then you have a jungler that can consistently allow you to try and get leads. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that it goes like completely away from a pretty straightforward idea. And I feel like they've had harder times adjusting to that sort of idea of play than just like trying to win lane win game in some situations. And then against the lower tier teams, even in those instances where they clearly are more dominating, just based on name value, I feel like for much more or a huge part of the games, I feel like they are still lacking that, how to put it. So when you see Dark Zero and when we see the recent near airport, I feel like they have just that thing that you know that whenever they make a play, that can turn into like 3 times the goal that they were having before. And it feels like with luminosity, it takes more than just that one play to turn that small lead into a huge lead, which is weird to say, right? Like I feel like the three of them should have the same possibility, but it just feels more effective when you watch Dark Zero or or Near Airport pull it off compared to luminosity. And that slight difference is why I feel like right now the other two teams feel more convincing in how they ended up winning most of their games.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I would say that LG, like, they don't feel like greater than a sum of their parts. They feel like
Yeah.
about exactly the sum of their parts. Um, and I mean, this has been my kind of critique of this Luminosity team all along, right? Is that they come in as favorites, sure, but like especially if you want to talk about like LTA prospects, like trying to qualify for that league. Um,
Yep.
it felt like they were going to need to either like reach really high level of synergy that is hard to make a strong prediction on. You kind of have to luck into that or build it up over multiple years the way that Dark Zero has, or they were going to need some players to take a massive step up, and that's the more traditional way to look for upside in your team, and that's how I think most rosters end up being built, right? You always want to have one or two pieces. If you're not already one of the best teams in your league, you definitely want to have some pieces that have the opportunity to take a step up and level up your team. And like I think that's Tomio for this team, I guess. But as I've expressed
Technically.
before, right? I think the Shopify Rebellion sent a pretty clear signal this offseason that they don't think that Tomio is that guy,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, I don't really either. So I'd love to see this guy continue to grow. And don't get me wrong, I still think he's an easy top half jungler in the NACL, but I'm not really seeing. He doesn't come in here looking like he has majorly leveled up from a year uh, shadowing a major league team.
Yeah, and the thing is that this is something we were prefacing when we started like everything with the NACL, and it's where we see our like the junglers in some of these teams, right? And it was pretty clear that Judy was the I would say undisputed number one coming into here. But then it was discussion between where you would put Tomio, Spica, Kisneo, Dardock, and all those players, and I feel like Tomio, for all that I feel like he's capable of doing, obviously, I feel like he just consistently has been that one step behind of junglers like Spica and Yuji in general. And I feel like now he's even like in some situations just a tad bit behind someone like Darkdog, which well, before Dardock was certainly the guy that you would put above Tomio, then there was a time where I would say Tomio could be above Dardock. But I feel like even in this split, Tomio feels behind Dardock. And now I'm not even sure if Tomio is a top four jungler. I would say like he's contesting top five, yes, but like I could make arguments for Dardock being above him, and then even Kisno as well.
For sure. Quax,
Hi.
welcome aboard,
Yeah.
brother. We promised that you'd be
Yo,
here.
Perfect
we're
timing.
talking about we're talking about junglers. Perfect timing.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I am sorry I'm late, everybody. I literally just got back
Nice flight, by
from
the way.
a flight. I was in Boston, and then I had to fly, or I had to drive all the way home. My room, my office looks like the room of requirement from Harry Potter, but I'm still here. I'm still ready.
Let's go.
So yeah, TDS. I will say I do think that like it's easier I think for Dardock to shine as a more prominent carry and for people to say that he is a better player or just a better jungler than Tomio because like he is I think more set up to be have a more dynamic play style, right? Like when you've obviously got these impressionable players like Aojun and Crimson as your solo laners, like you have to be willing to flex a little bit into that carry role just a bit, because there may be certain positions where Crimson might not be comfortable or Aojun might not be comfortable fulfilling that carry role as a solo laner, along with Array, who I think has been their most prominent carry player throughout the
Agreed.
split, at least in my opinion. Whereas when you look at someone like Tomio, he's almost never going to be the guy that you're looking at to carry on Luminosity, right? Like that spot is reserved for Insanity and it's reserved for Tactical. And so I do think that when Tomio looks bad, it looks worse because he's on shit like Sejuani, where you're not really expecting him to do much by himself, have a ton of agency as a lone player. Whereas with Dardoch, you can kind of just chalk it up to, oh, his lanes might not have given him as many resources. So I wouldn't go as far as to say that Tomio is a definitively worse jungler than Dardoch. He's certainly more dynamic. He certainly, like, Dardoch is certainly more dynamic and can, I think, with the experience that he has, fill a lot more niches for the team, which is what I think has made it super effective for CCG and what has made CCG super effective overall. But I do think that is the big thing that Luminosity are lacking right now, which is dimensionality, right? Like, I feel like once you have this team kind of figured out, like, they're good at what they do, but they don't do a lot, right? Like they don't have a ton of styles. They kind of like to play their way. They do it really well. But if you can figure that out and you can pinpoint, areas of weakness, cracks in the armor, if you will, then I think that's where they go down a little bit. So, I do think a catalyst for that certainly is the jungle.
Yeah. So
that's where I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Just quickly, that's where I think, like, that's exactly why I think the fact that Luminosity, like, is playing like they are right now is why I think brings down Tomio that bit as well. Because I don't think, like, he's lesser than Dardoch in that sense, but like you're pointing out, like, he's not the carry jungler, but he's more tied to whatever happens with the Luminosity playstyle. And I think that the fact that Luminosity hasn't felt like that dominant force that we were expecting pre-season really impacts particularly Tomio's, like, performance. Because we always, like, kind of expect someone like Tactical to be on and off. Like, he can be Tristana jumping into the backline and dying with 4 people on top of him, or winning you a team fight. That's something that we're expecting. But Tomio, which is a little bit more consistent in that sense, it gets more impacted because he's also the guy that will take the full brunt of every, like, mistake that happens onto him. Because he's the one that will either initiate or look for things to happen. And that's where I feel like he has taken more impact from his playstyle and from his play compared to other players on Luminosity's side. But I think it's a collective issue that it's impacting him more so than just an individual one.
Yeah. So just to put a pin in CCG for a second, so Quax, what we talked about when we started here is just we're halfway through NACL, so we want to do a quick tier check-in rather than go through each and every series of the last 2 weeks, especially because we want to talk about ACL a little bit as well. Are you on board with the framing we were using? Because TDS and I both agreed on this was top 3, middle 2, bottom 5. Are you on that framing as well, or
top 3, middle 2, bottom? Yes.
Probably. Just in case it's like those 3.
It's kind of it's basically. I think everybody has the same top 3. So
I hesitate to say middle 2 because while I do think that Conviction are a really good team, I think that their 2 wins were obviously against the, like, lower 2. My framing would be like top 3, middle 4, like middle 5, and then bottom 2. But I think this recent week,
actually, who's your bottom 2?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking for.
So I personally think that my bottom 2. You're not going to believe me when I say that it's Polestar is one of them, but Polestar is one of them. No shot. No. And honestly, I hate to do this. I really hate to do this. But my other bottom 2, as it stands right now, not saying they can't improve, is probably Blue Water. I really have not been impressed with the Blue Water tape this split so far. And I understand that, like, Blue Water as a team is you know, like they particularly in their first split, like I would say they certainly leveled up toward the latter half of the split. So I'm
Yeah,
not
you're
saying
right.
that they are like doomed to fail throughout the rest of the split, but we are definitely getting toward like I think, you know, you round a couple of corners and playoffs is certainly in the discussion. And I also understand that Blue have been playing some harder teams, but even in their wins, these guys haven't looked as solid as I've really wanted them to. Like when you're comparing them to last split, I
So
feel like it certainly is a steep drop off. So I put them like I actually think Polestar is like significantly lower than Blue Otter, to be honest with you.
Sure.
But I do think that
so
Blue
you're more on
Otter
my
is
side with
kind
that.
of I I think Blue Otter is like in a tier of their own. Like I do think that Blue Otter are probably better. They are better, yes, than AMI, but AMI are just showing up at the current moment, which is why I'm putting Blue Otter
And
below them at the current moment.
here's the thing also that it's important to take into account with that. And it's not only current performance, but also current schedule. Because I was looking at Blue
Yeah,
Otter's current schedule. They have essentially 2 lost matches if they are still playing the same, which are near Airport and Dark Zero. So like they still have 3 more matches, which is the good thing about the fact that they have barely played at all. But
and they
they
took a game
need to
with
step up.
Luminosity. Like
Yeah,
they
like if
like
we go by consideration, I think we all agree that Luminosity is the weaker of the top 3, or does Quax is a little bit away from that? Because I think Gordo and I were similar on that. Like we think
Yeah.
Luminosity right now is the weaker of the 3.
I disagree. I
Okay.
I personally think that Near Airport are definitely the weakest of the three. Like again,
Okay.
I think that Near Airport have more of an upswing than Luminosity do. But I still think that LG have looked more solid in their wins than Near
Can I make
Airport.
a
I
can I
think
make a
that
cop out here? I think I have a
yeah, go
way of
ahead.
framing this that makes sense to me. I think
Yes.
if you were to plug both these teams into like the LTA, I think I would agree with you. I think Luminosity will play a more solid game of League of Legends all around than Near Airport will. But I
Okay.
think
Fair
for
enough.
the purposes of NACL, I think Spica will just take over a game in such an absurd way that like I think Near Airport have to be considered the stronger team for tier 2. Like I think there's just such a high percentage of games where Spica is just
Yeah.
like he's already invading on like halfway through second clear and
Hmm.
immediately setting himself up ahead, immediately getting important vision, immediately capitalizing on that important vision with a gank or with a collapse in their jungle, and the game just ends.
Yeah.
I
There's
like
so
to
many games
describe that.
these last 2 weeks where like he sees somebody on a ward he placed at Gromp, and he
Yeah.
turns that into an invade, and he turns that invade into a gank, and he turns that gank into a
Spica is
redive, and then the game's just
very
over.
Look,
Spica is really fluid in his gameplay. He's really good at
Hmm.
taking like one thing and then transitioning into
Yeah,
another, like you were saying.
I like calling that playing tier 1 in tier 2.
yeah.
That's
I
the sort of thing that it's pretty much what they end up doing. Like playing just like they are playing in LTA when they are playing NACL. And it works.
I call it there's a fancy term that junglers have. I learned this one from Verkayu when I was climbing the ladder way back in like season 10. I was watching like all his jungle videos. Shout out to him. It's what we in the hood like to call kill conversion ratio. Essentially what it means is you get something on the map,
Okay.
or you get a kill on the map, and then you just transform it into an objective, and you use the momentum from your previous play to generate a new play, right? And you take that as far as you can, and then you base reset your tempo and essentially do the same thing over and over again. That is always kind of how I've looked at jungle. Um, you know, mostly from a solo queue perspective, but you can see shades of that in Spica's gameplay. And I think that he is definitely the best at making it look. He's almost like the best way I can put it is like if the teacher needed like an example for a project, like his kind of gameplay, I think would be the like example, because I think that he
Okay.
is definitely um, showing like a very on paper way to play the game and is doing it super well. Like his play is very by the books, but I do think that where it really shines for Spica is when it gets funky. right? Like when it's not by the books, when you throw shit to
Yeah.
the window, like he can go balls to the walls crazy if you ask him to. But I do think what's holding him back is unironically, some of his teammates just are not willing to go as crazy with him. Like I think Double Lift has been playing the game like very by the books in my opinion. Like he
Double
is
and Bio
very
both, I
rarely.
think, have been very conservative.
I
think
think I
Bio's
feel like
been
they've been the quietest as well, but
they
for team
have for sure
standards, I think they've been the quietest. Like to
by
me,
far.
the ranking is like 100%. It's speed capability. You can put them any way you want, but I think those are the top two players. I'm been really impressed with Tia Blade, to be
Blade
honest.
is
Like
good.
He's good.
I've honestly been really glad with what he's been showing. Started rocky, but like he has been developing into what I was expecting, but with time. And then I'm really surprised with Biolift. It's easier to say that. Both of them have been quieter than I was expecting from their bot lane duo, which is
Yeah.
surprising to a certain degree, but maybe that's positive for Near Airport, where if they can be quiet and still keep on improving like that, if they can become once again like more active, then that bodes well for Near Airport in the future as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think NA are really good, and I certainly think that. But like at the same time, I think Near Airport are the only team I can realistically see getting beaten by a team outside the top three. Like I cannot picture Luminosity losing to
Fair enough.
CCG, the team that I personally think is the closest to cracking that top three. They almost did, right? Like they took a game off of Near Airport and they looked
they were going
good
to.
in that series. Yeah, they were gonna win that shit, by the way.
They should have flowed, by the way, just quickly.
I was really disappointed about that series. Like I think CCG has looked by far the best out of all of the non-top three teams, and it was against Near Airport. So like if Near, like I think Near Airport just looked the weakest at the current moment. Like obviously, you know, on a given day they could be better than Luminosity. But I think Luminosity are just a little tinge bit more consistent, and it makes them harder to defeat. I do want to talk about Dark Zero real quick though,
Okay,
and kind of switch.
Then let's get to CCG because we've been dancing around CCG all show. But now let's talk about Dark Zero.
I get it. So I do want to kind of just bring up a quick point here about like the promo relegation thing with Dark Zero, and I'm doing this as it's kind of a tirade if I'm being completely honest with you, because after watching that DSG dig game yesterday, dude, if I'm like an outsider and I'm not super privy to like the North American ecosystem and I see the promotion relegation program implemented and the first team that is to be experimented with that like kind of way of formatting is literally just getting absolutely bulleted in the head by every other team every single game,
Okay.
I'm gonna call this team out. I'm gonna call this region out for making shitty decisions. And
Like
it's
they've
You
always
say
really
this on today, the day of them beating Team Liquid.
Yeah, like
oh shit.
conveniently
They
after
beat
they
Team Liquid
won.
today.
Wait, they
Yeah,
did? Okay,
Yes.
cut. I was on the plane. I have an excuse. They beat TL?
I wasn't
They did.
expecting that at all. Yeah, they did.
They beat Team Liquid?
Yeah, I know, dude. I'm as
All right,
surprised
fine.
as you are.
My argument still okay,
That's
shit.
great.
My
Oh my God,
argument
like,
still
that's great.
kind of holds up though, because my biggest worry is that Dark Zero, everyone is looking at this team to beat DSG because Dark Zero looked fucking good and DSG looked kind of bad. Like, yeah, they just beat Team Liquid, but best of ones don't prove shit, guys. I mean, if you're taking this at face value, then I feel bad for your parents for having to spend so much time raising you for you to be that dumb. So when you've got this team of Dark Zero players who are doing super well, you're expecting them to win, they will promote most likely. Like let's picture a hypothetical situation where they promote and DSG get yeeted from LTA, then you know
we're on that path.
We have all of these rumors though about, you know, players on Dark Zero potentially being signed to other teams. Like there's the rumor about Yuji, like all the other players on Dark Zero as well. I would say 4 out of 5 of the players on Dark Zero are capable of, at the very least, performing to a decent level, depending on the ecosystem they get in the LTA. And my biggest worry is that we're going to start doing this promotion relegation thing. The players that make those teams good are going to get signed to other teams. And then the team that promotes is going to be signing players that are worse or potentially don't have the synergy that Dark Zero have. And then we're just going to keep going through the same cycle. That's my big worry.
It's all good, Quax. I just realized the actual plan that Dark Zero took, because like they were playing, they did it in a 5-pit
Hang
move.
on, let me go to the post-match Reddit thread. What the fuck?
So they actually signed the Exposed Star roster so that they can play the Exposed Star roster on the LTA, and then the other players can get into the LTA as well. And that way we have like 10 new rookies going into the LTA next year. It was all a plan all along by Dark Zero. Now I can see it finally.
Yep.
Okay, I'm looking at the match right now.
That's somewhat like nature running her course, I do think.
Yeah. It was bound to happen, and it should happen.
It's like the team getting picked apart as it promotes, so it's like...
Yo, Scary Jerry popping off on the bars and Yone Abadaga.
It's kind of rage just looking at all the surprise from Quax.
Of course, a live reaction to Quax. Yeah. Okay. So Umti and APA just suck, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
Bro, dude, Umti makes Neferi look balanced. He cannot play the dog to save his goddamn life. I don't know. This has been
ironic that he plays dog champions, but he cannot play the dog champion himself.
Dude, this has been the funniest like find the imposter jungle meta of all time. Since Neferi has been meta, there has been like a super split divide in not just NA, but like the whole world as to which junglers can Neferi and which junglers can't Neferi. And the ones that can't are getting so hard exposed right now, and it's really funny. Like anytime there's like a new jungler that hits the patch, or you know, like they've been doing that shit a lot, like you know, Darius, Neferi, all of that. Whenever that happens, there are always junglers that just can't seem to get that shit down, and it's so funny to watch the chaos unfold with stuff.
This is what Lee Sin used to be for years. Like this is what the Lee Sin test was for like multiple seasons.
Dude, and the Nidalee test.
And the Nidalee
test. And everyone except Canyon
test was the worst one. The Nidalee test was the worst one because
the Nidalee test was bad because the Nidalee test there was still a line, but the line was like way over to the right.
Like at least with Neferi, it's kind of a 60-40 to a 50-50. The Nidalee test was like a 20-80 or even a 10-90.
Not even. It was like a 95-5. I'm not even.
Kidding. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that.
There
that
were like
test
a handful of
was
in the world where if you give them like, and it was hilarious too because that 5% would fucking like put up like LeBron James numbers on the enemy team's ass, and then the other ones would look like a bronze game. There was no in between. It either sucked donkey dick or it was the greatest performance since Prince at the Super Bowl halftime show. So let's get back on topic though.
Okay, yeah.
Wanted to talk about CCG.
I do.
Let's talk about CCG. I'm just gonna start out by saying I love these boys. Especially after last year. I was really not confident where I wanted to put these guys. I wasn't confident they were going to be as good as they were, even with a player like Dardoch. But dude, I don't know what the players have been getting fed, but they have, like Aojun in particular has been one of my biggest surprises.
He's the best rookie mid, which by the way I told you all about, but
yeah, dude, Hawk owes that guy an apology. If he was watching this episode, you owe Aojun a cookie.
Who owes Aojun an apology?
Hawk.
Hawk.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's the difference between the ACL knowers and not.
I will say, I will still make an argument that I think Femini deserves to get to the Femini is fighting against Aojun for that rookie of the split because I think that Femini is playing great as well. But like, Aojun is also true.
It's definitely between the two of them across all the rookie mids.
Wait, actually, Quax, aren't you supporting Lojas just because of Church of
Lojas? I am.
Lojas isn't a mid though.
I am.
No, but we're saying rookie.
Oh, rookie in general. Well, rookie of the split is TF Blade.
Listen.
Well, actually, yeah. No, actually, yeah, you're right.
I disagree with that, to be honest with you.
You would give it to Aojun?
No, but do you disagree because he's not a rookie, or do you disagree because you don't think he's the rookie of the split? Like, I'm kind of curious in that divide.
I don't think he's the rookie of the split personally. I
Okay, fair enough.
would go, if I had to go with a rookie of the split, I would unironically go for Aojun. I'm not even kidding. Like I think Aojun, while maybe not being the most flashy player, has proven that he's able to hold his own against the best. Like, okay, let me just put this out there. When we started the NACL, we said definitively the best mid laner in all of Tier 2 was going to be Insanity.
Yeah.
We said without a doubt, Insanity would be the best.
And
it didn't matter where Luminosity placed, Insanity would be number 1. And I actually don't think he's been looking like number 1. No. I don't think Aojun's been looking like number 1. I unironically think Pobelter has been the best mid laner.
No, I did agree. I told you all Pobelter was going to be
I actually
he has been.
Yeah. Dare I say, dude, I actually think it's Spyrax than Pobelter.
I think Pobe has been putting up some really good, like if we're it depends on this has been a debate that has been talked about for a bajillion years across a bajillion different like sports about what the definition of MVP is. Personally, I don't think Near Airport would be as good, or not even wouldn't look as good without Pobelter. Sure. And I'm not saying that Spyrax also isn't filling a position on Dark Zero as well, but I think that Aojun looked really good against Pobelter. Like, I think that if Aojun is able to stabilize the lane against who is, in my opinion, the best mid laner in the league, that deserves a lot of praise, especially from a rookie. Like, even last year, the rookie of the split was Levitate. And Levitate going against the best AD carry in the league at the time, which was Scary Jerry, even the rookie of the split could not hold a T, in my opinion, to how good Scary Jerry was in that previous year. So I am of the opinion that this has been a more impressive look from Aojun, because I think that he is actually managing to stabilize against the best, whereas most of the rookies aren't able to stabilize against their best lane counterpart in the league.
Yeah. So I think my Aojun take here is probably on, like, I think that the laning is great and the team fighting is great, and you have to, like, you got to be looking at those raw talents and be very excited about that from a player that is a rookie right now. You know, it's hard not to be. This is why I think, again, I don't remember whose take this was, but it's like a meme in my brain now. There's two mid laners who are the inheritor to Jojo P, and they're Toasty Alex and one other guy that we won't mention. I'm still pretty sure that that's Aojun. And I think it could be based on, like, that evidence, right? I think his lane, like, you know, the base skills, his fundamentals. What was that?
The one that said that? I think it was Peter Dunn that said that, no?
Was it? I don't know.
Really?
I thought it was somebody else.
No, I don't think it was. Peter, where the fuck has Peter Dunn even been? I forgot.
He still tweets about it. It's like raising his child, but he still tweets about
his parenting.
Cringe shit.
I know, agree. But, like, the thing about Aojun is, and this is my, I feel like almost every CCG game goes according to a script, which is, like, CCG develops a strong early lead out of Dardoch making some really good pathing, making some really good ganks happen. Dardoch is almost always, like, making 3 to 4 really strong plays before 15 minutes. He's always getting, you know, Feat of Warfare always goes over to CCG. They're always able to get out of the board early. They're always coming in, usually in a strong early objective trading position. Like, they're either up 4-2 on grubs, or they've got, you know, they've gotten 6 grubs for the 2 dragons, which is generally considered a favorable trade. Something like that. They're almost always in a strong position coming out. And then Aojun gets caught in a side lane, and they punt it. And then sometimes they bring it back, and sometimes they don't. I do, as much as I've been impressed with Aojun, I do think that has been, like, the hardcore script for so many CCG games.
He still has his rookie mistakes.
He does.
He still has his rookie mistakes. And I will say, I think that he will probably be, in my mind at least, I will be having him compete with Rookie of the Split, with Hoarder and not TF Blade.
I think
actually
those three are
that-
in the conversation for
I
me.
think those are by far the top three most impressive rookies. Like Hoarder as well, I think has shown up really well. But I will agree with you. I think that Aojun is very prone to also getting caught out. Like I do think that this has been kind of an issue with a lot of rookies.
It's fine.
A
This
lot
is what
of support.
Zamudo was like when he debuted.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember the
Like this
meme of
is
Samudo dying on a side lane like 5 times before he actually got to do something.
Yeah. So I'm willing to look past it simply because it's such a common mistake. But like the fact is, I think that he more than makes up for it because he still fills a really vital role on the team.
I
And
think
he's
his team
still
fighting has
putting
been
up.
amazing so far,
Yeah,
so
his
it
team
really
fighting has
helps
been
out
really
that.
good. And I think that is one of the most underrated values of a mid laner. Like everyone looks at laning and roaming and being on time for objectives as like kind of a key thing for mid laners. But like the team fighting aspect of it is also super important. Right? Because you're in the middle of the map and you kind of have to be making sure that you know when and where to be. Like positioning is key. I think his positioning in particular has been very good when he's not getting caught out, of course. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
So the funny thing is that I think that Aljun is a perfect example of a mid laner that is of a little bit of a forgotten era of League of Legends. Because I feel like mid laners before were more team fighty than just a map roamer in general. Because like the era, like I feel like this is something that started around the time that Caps got like his rise, and then like
yeah,
with the playmaking style, because it became more of a playmaking sort of meta. Because the mid laners that were at the top of the world before the Caps, like let's say Caps era, because I won't say Faker era because it's been always a Faker era. So the before that, the mid laners at the top of the world were the Bjergsens that were more like the sort of carry mid laner that were great with his positioning. You had
Bjergsen,
the
Jensen.
Fevibens at the time as well when Fnatic was like before Caps when Fnatic was something. It was Feviben with a more controlled sort of style as well. Froggen, you have in Korea Crown, Kuro at the time as well, Ambition.
mhm.
These sort of mid laners, and then with Caps, I think there was this rise, and with some of the changes to mid lane as well. But with Caps, there was the rise of just being a general moving around the map sort of mid laner, and I feel like
Yeah,
Aljun fits more into that style of mid laners before that than someone that moves around. I feel like Aljun is more reminiscent of Pobelter's sort of playstyle
yeah.
than another type of mid laner in that sense.
I'm willing to accept that. I also think that like it's really cool that he is able to go against some of those playmaking mids as well and
Yeah,
hold his own. Like obviously we talked about Poe Belter and he kind of cultivates that style. I certainly agree. But like when you're going against those more playmaker-esque laning mids, you got to make sure that you're able to temper that laning phase. And he was able to do that. I would say that the most defined playmaking mid laner in the league, at least the one I associate with that style the most. Maybe he's not the best at it. Is Darkwings. I think
yeah.
Darkwings has been a super like heavy into playmaking. Like he's got shit like the Zed in his pocket.
I would say it's
Um,
insanity, but I think same idea.
Yeah, I
well,
think I can
yeah,
agree with that.
Who also plays
but
Zed?
I think Darkwings though just has a very defined
I
style,
agree.
and I really like watching Darkwings play. Like I can hate on Winthrop all day, but I can't hate on
You mean on
Darkwings is
you mean
not
conviction?
or
Winthrop.
not
Yeah,
on not on Winthrop.
Conviction.
Conviction. He's on Winthrop last year.
I can criticize Conviction all day, but I can't hate on Darkwings.
Yeah, you can still hate Winthrop though. It's fine
Yeah,
since he doesn't
maybe.
play for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like Aojun being able to hold his own against some of those players is a testament because you have to have that element of you if you're going to play that style. I mean, but I personally, I'm more of a fan of
Also,
the playmaker mids. Like I love my Zekkas. Zekka is my personal favorite mid in the world right now. So I can't complain.
I think I'm more of a just to win kind of guy, but I can respect that. And also, I just wanted to mention quickly with CCG, they also already took kind of the hardest part of the season out of the way. They already played near Airport and Dark Zero, and they already played against. Actually, no, they still have to play against Conviction, but the remaining matches
Yeah.
are Full Star, AMI, Conviction, and Luminosity. So they technically should have 2 easy wins here, which secures them playoffs 100% and close to being fourth place actually.
Mhm.
I think they very well
I
could be
would say
fourth
they're
place.
the definitive fourth place.
They
I mean,
could
I
actually
think
even take
Conviction versus
third.
CCG will be the match for fourth, and that's the last game of the season.
Well, they could
Who-
even take third place depending on if they beat Luminosity. I'm not saying they will, but like this is before they play Conviction, so this could find third place as well.
I think that'll definitely determine who's fourth and fifth, and then I think
Especially
every
'cause,
other team is just.
Especially because I also think Conviction has a similar, like Conviction actually has a similar um, schedule to CCG, where they also play Luminosity, but they also have to play against, how to put it, like elimination bound teams that are not Polestar, which is a little bit risky as well, because those are the sort of matches that the teams can surprise you and they end up messing you up just because you weren't expecting them to be as better than they were before, kind of thing.
Yep. So I mean, it's for CCG. I know we talked about Dardoch a little bit already, but like this team runs through Dardoch so hard, man. Like
It does.
this would be a completely different team without Dardoch. I really do think that he's experiencing a little bit of a renaissance here.
I mean,
that-
we saw what happened with this team basically without a Dardoch, right? Like last year they had Chad and then Kryra.
I mean, last year they had
And-
4 different players, but
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
showed
But I
you.
feel like I'm just kind of trying to play into the like what he provides kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I think that Chad and Kryra, the team looked like a little bit more directionless with those guys, and I think that Dardoch, like a lot of people have been saying, like Dardoch is very good mechanically, but like as he's gotten older and as he has gotten more experience under his belt, and kind of had to be the unk on the team, so to speak, which feels weird to say. I have like, dude, you listen to his comms and you listen to how he directs the team, and it's magic. Like it's also super helpful for just like his solo lanes as well. Like Crimson is obviously no longer a rookie. Arjun is a rookie. But like there's both still young players, right? Like, and they're both still developing.
Yeah.
So having a jungler in your ear that actually knows what he's doing, I think is so fucking valuable to have. And I think it is legitimately, even after, Dardoch might not be playing with them anymore, it's gonna make them better. And that's honestly my favorite kind of player, is like the ones that, are able to lead you in the moment, but give you advice that can last you beyond that. So I think Dardoch certainly is that. And that's personally why I think that he transcends the value that you can really give him to one specific team. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
glazing a little too hard, but that's just.
no,
So
I
that
think
works
that's
as well.
definitely fair. All
Yeah.
right, TDS, you got to wrap up here.
Sadly, I need to go real life obligations. Had me by the ankle, so need to go right now. But still, NACL has been great. NACL has also been great. So there's great talking points to come through. And also, sadly, match of the week is this week, but like we're not going to get a chance to see it fully. But I'm excited for Dark Zero against New Airport. So if anyone wants to watch it, like be out on the lookout. That match is going to be great either way.
Yes. I agree.
Absolutely. All right, thanks for hopping on, TDS. Appreciate having you here, man. I'm gonna
No
bring in
problem.
Gromp, but we will see you next week, brother.
Yep. So I'll go.
Peace
And
out.
Gromp appears. And Gromp appears.
Oh, hang on, man. I'm doing a lot at once here. All right, let's come back, Gromp.
Just waiting.
Come back, Gromp. No. All right, hang on. This was supposed to be a lot more seamless than it is, but
Yeah.
we're gonna get
We
there.
can just post-production it
Yeah. Where the
and make it more seamless.
fuck is my picture of Gromp, dude? Oh, there it is.
Post-production.
All right. He's here.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks, TDS. We'll see you next time, brother.
Be
Oh man, and I didn't even transition him in. Welcome back, Gromp. All right. We're back. It's just us now, Quax.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Let's. Any other big ACL points or any other big NACL points you wanted to bring up before we move on to chat about ACL?
No, Not really. I mean, I personally, for me, I think that at the moment everyone kind of has their little boxes right now. Like we're around like the midway. What are we, like midway through the split?
Yeah, that's
Something
pretty much
around
what we
there.
did. I mean, yeah, 4 weeks done with 4 out of 7 weeks. So
Yeah, so we're basically midway through. I think everyone has kind of fit into their niche little boxes, and I'm just excited to see what this week holds because I feel like every week is a banger in the NACL. If not for games, then for 90-minute tech pauses. Anyway, let's move on.
absolutely. All right, let's chat about ACL a little bit. So we have kicked off the 2025
Yep.
spring ACL. If you haven't gotten intro to all the teams, I recommend checking out either the VOD of the Draw show that I got to do with Duan, which is going to be somewhere on the Aegis channel, or you could check out Salty Runback did an episode where they did their pick'ems. There was a pick'em event for ACL this split.
Mhm.
So they did their pick'ems, they recorded themselves doing their pick'ems, and that is an episode of Salty Runback that you can go and see. So, yeah, you can go and check that one out if you want to hear a breakdown of all the teams. I don't think we're gonna go over all the teams here, but
Probably
I
don't
would
have
like to dip
time.
through the groups. You know, we're 2 weeks into the GSL stage, so for those who aren't aware, Aegis is now a GSL stage into a Swiss stage, basically most easily thought of as one long Swiss stage. It's
Hmm.
4 wins to advance, 4 losses to be eliminated,
Yep.
and but you start off in a GSL group which you will exit either 2-0, 2-1, 1-2, or 0-2 at the end of 2 or 3 weeks. And then after you're done with your GSL group, it goes into Swiss. So we are now 2 weeks in. That means that we have ourselves 8 teams who are now 2-0 out of GSL, and we have 8 teams that are 0-2 out of GSL. So I figure we can go group by group. We can talk about who's won each group, what our kind of expectations were, and that'll be our ACL coverage for the week. And then we'll be back next week to start to talk about who's really pulling away, who's going to qualify early as some of those top seeds for playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was a lot to start with, but I think we can get right into things, Quax. So
Yeah.
starting off with Group A. So Group A is Legacy Esports, Foxtrot, Flippers, and Ember Foxes. We now know that Legacy Esports will be out at 2-0 here, and it will be Foxtrot that drop at 0-2. Really going to be more focused on the 2-0 teams here, I think, than the 0-2 ones, unless the 0-2 teams start to give us a reason to really think about them. But Legacy Esports on a clean 4-0 sweep out of the group, Quacks.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that when we were kind of looking, would you look at any team that has, former NACL players or, just people that have really been hot in the previous year, it's hard to ignore Legacy Esports and a lot of people as well, I think I personally put Legacy Esports as the top team for Group A. Simply not only because I felt like the players like
I did
Dragoon
as well.
Cross, Command Attack, Mikel, Vatican. These are guys that everyone who keeps up in the scene know. These are guys that we know we've casted Gordo. And our faith in them is immense. These are it's basically like a scrappy version of the ISU boys plus some Dragoon and some Cross. It's also just that I felt like the teams in Group A, most of them couldn't really hold a T in my opinion. Like obviously we weren't really looking at Foxtrot to be anything too crazy. And then like Flippers, we were like, okay, when you've got players like Win or Inflame, this team can maybe do something. But nothing really happened, right? So I think it's a combination of these guys being good and the fact that Group A wasn't particularly tough for them.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. I would highlight for Fotacon in particular. Fotacon's support
Yeah,
has been an interesting little
been a lot of
experiment.
those lately. A
Yeah,
lot of
and
those,
he's
bro.
going. He's shown some really cool stuff. I think. I think he's brought out some more
Mhm.
interesting picks that you might not expect. Always an opportunity to kind of build a new champion pool when you have a player kind of role swapping like that. And what is it? Like Fodicon was drawing zillion bans is something that stood out to me. And then what did he show us? He showed us a couple of enchanters. Then he busted out the Gragas support in
Yeah.
one of the featured matches that we showed last week, and that was really cool. I think he was, first of all, he was incredible on it. It was against, what was it? What was he against? Something that gets countered by Greg. Alistair. He's against Inflame's Alistair, and like
Mhm.
Inflame, for better or for worse, was consistently challenging him mechanically to just
Yeah.
be like, I'm going for the headbutt. I'm going for the headbutt every time, and you need to react and body slam me. And Fodicon did it every single time. Was really, really
Mhm.
impressive in that game, especially a game that had some little moments there where it looked like Omi Bro could have turned it around on the Ezreal. Those little things ended up making a really big difference. I think Fodicon's support was quite impressive there.
I also think, another player that I've been really impressed with. I'm always impressed with him whenever I see him, just because of his how much dynamic he has to him in terms of just being able to play so much different shit. Is Cross, right? Like, oh yeah, jungler on the podcast is complimenting another jungler, but it's true. I think that Cross is super, super, super wide in what he can actually accomplish. Like, if you need him to play weak side, he can play weak side. If you need him to play carry, you can play carry. And I think that we got to see, obviously there isn't a huge sample size when you only have 4 games under your belt and all of them are wins. But I still think that Cross was really impressive this week, and like I always keep my eye on this guy. And I think if you're watching this team, once they start to get to some of those higher competition teams, kind of past the shitters, if you will, he is definitely the player I'm going to be looking out for. Because like yes, Fodicon in support is cool to see, but I do think that once Fodicon goes against some more disciplined, well-known supports, he will have a tougher time. I also think Command Attack might have a tougher time. I'm looking at the people like Mikel and Cross to be those points of carry potential later down the line in the season.
For sure. I think I agree with that. Let's get into Group B then. So Group B was DIA Esports, High Alert, Pookie Bears, and Novosphere Gaming Myth. This will be the first group that I got wrong. I did have DIA coming out as first in this group, but the Pookie Bears able to take them down. X Royal and Co. over on this squad. The other there's some other players that you may actually recognize on this team. Kita at AD is from Morningstar White, and the jungler is Shaijan, if you remember him from like the Combine circuit a little while back. So a couple of Chinese names on there. They also, I am going to take a wild guess here and assume Che did not play. I'm going to take a look here, but
they also had Vakken as their jungler, right? I don't believe he's the starter.
yeah, I for Pookie Bears, the jungler
or Mayo
is supposed to be
Mayo.
Shaijan. No,
Yeah.
okay, so Che did play for them. All right.
Yeah.
Well, he appears to be doing better. Good for him.
Yeah. And in that series, Pookie Bear versus DIA Esports, the one that kind of determined first. Vacuum was the jungler, not Armeo, and part of the reason why so many people rated.
Oh, you're okay. You're talking about DIA.
Yeah. Part of the reason why people rated DIA so high, myself included, was because you had a literal former LTA jungler on the team. And you didn't have that here. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, Sanch and Dawn and Hums and Redemption are bad. I'm just saying I think that Armeo is definitely better than Vakken, and he might have been able to make a difference here. But credit where credit is due to the Pookie Bears. Like in particular, like this was a Kita masterclass, 80 carry masterclass here by the Pookie Bears.
I hope he's really going all the way on Kita now, by the way. Much better name than
Yeah. I thought he looked insane. I thought he looked really good, and then I thought Sean seen Sean, whatever. I don't care.
Should be Sean.
Well, I do care. Yeah, Sean. Saw Sean. Looked really good as well. Like I have kind of been, like I said when we were talking about NACL and like, more aggressive versus passive mid laners, like I definitely prefer the more aggressive mid laners. I think they're just way more fun. And Sashan is definitely that guy, picking up the Akali, picking up the Quirky, putting the hands on done. Really liked it. So yeah, I mean, this team is a pleasant surprise. And anytime you look at a team that has X Royal on it, I feel like you definitely have to look at those hands being good. And it certainly seems like we're warming up to a team that could put the mechanics at the forefront of their gameplay.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on to then Group C. Group C, just to keep us rolling along here, was Citadel, CB, A5 Wagyu, Novosphere Gaming, and Zero Animosity. I got some pushback for calling this the Group of Death, but I think I've been a little vindicated on it, not going to lie. As CB comes out, playing 2-3 game series as the 4th seed, and actually ending up coming out of there in 3rd, since they have now, or competing for 2nd/3rd with Zero Animosity, and Zero Animosity also able to take a game off of Citadel.
Yeah.
That's really big for them. Retrozing had some cool choice words on his interview after week 1, talking about how the teams like Citadel would be disrespecting them, and they had an opportunity to come in and have an upset. Didn't come away with the series, but did take a game, which is absolutely huge for a team like this, against a team as stacked as Citadel. So props to them. But also, of course, Citadel favorites for the whole tournament still. Well, it's nice to see them drop games so early. I don't mean to be rude, but there's, I think, a non-zero concern that Citadel are just going to run away with this league and be the best team by a lot and not really be challenged. So them dropping a game this early, I think, is a little reassuring note.
I mean, I personally kind of double down on it being the Group of Death. Like, I am in agreement with you that Group C is probably the hardest group of all of them. And the way I kind of classify Group of Death is like, how close is it relative to the overall strength of the teams, right? Like the strength of the group. I think this group is super strong, and I think it's super close. And I don't know which one of you watching have access to the ACL sheet, but if you don't, you can go and scroll around. There are a lot of 2-0s, a lot more 2-0s than 2-1s, personally. And like before we talked about Group C, there was 1-2-1 between Group A and Group B. And Group C has a bunch of them, right? They have more 2-1s than they do 2-0s, which to me says that this was a very close Group C, and like that is what I expected. Like, I think that obviously I am kind of on the opposite trajectory, Gordo, where like Citadel dropping a game this early gets me a little bit worried. Especially because I agree with you. These guys should just win the league.
Oh yeah, worried for them, but reassured for the league.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There isn't a lot to say about this. I personally don't have a lot to say about Group C because I felt like I was expecting Wagyu to probably be up there, and I think that that there aren't a ton of surprises, even though this was the Group of Death. Citadel are still on top, Wagyu are still second. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say. It's just, to me, it's yeah, I don't have a lot to say.
Oh, good. No, I mean, I agree. I think it'll be interesting to see how some of the other kind of top teams in the league end up duking it out with Citadel, as they do show a little bit of weakness here at the beginning, because they're very different than the Citadel from OQs, but I mean, first of all, Philip's still on the bench. If Philip ever comes in, I think this team is just going to be straight up better than the one from OQs. And I mean, even without that, Diamond getting into this mix is a substantial upgrade over. They had Trevor in OQs, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So the fact that they ended up with Diamond in here is a significant upgrade. He's a very, very dangerous player at this level.
Mhm.
So that bot lane of Instinct and Diamond that is a
Yeah, that's good.
rough bot
That's
lane
good
to play against at this level. So they're the team to beat, no doubt.
for sure.
So Group E,
D.
are we on Group E?
D.
Group D. I can't do letters, dude. It's hard. Conviction Star, Deathmark Esport, Supernova Dark Matter, and Dorado Gaming. Conviction Star comes out of this in first place as the one of our academy teams, two different academy teams in this group, by the way. Conviction Star, though, definitely maybe an academy team in name, but definitely not an academy team in roster. Lots of experience on this team. Were my pick to come out first in the group, and they do. I think the highlight player in these series is probably Pika Pika. Has a couple of really, really good games here. Yeah, and games where the rest of the squad isn't particularly statistically impressive, and I do think, I think Reppy and Castle and Nukes and are all putting up solid performances in their own right. I think it's really Pika Pika that pushes them over the edge.
I think you're thinking of you're confusing Pika Pika on Conviction Star, but then you talked about the Dorado Gaming boys.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Dorado was their opponent.
Oh,
Like, I think
okay,
Dorado's putting up a good fight. It's not like Doxa's not blowing out Reppy, right? Maddie's not blowing out Castle.
No.
Like, I think
not.
Pika Pika's the difference maker.
I would agree with that mostly. I think that I've just been really impressed with Nightstar personally. Like I think that this team is going to live and die by bot lane. Like I'm not worried about the top side. I think
It's a
that
good
like
bot lane.
Lawrence, Maddie. I like what Salty Rumback said when they were talking about Conviction Star. They were like, "Ooh, if you showed me Lawrence, Maddie, and Doxa in like 2021, this could have been like NACL caliber, but we're in 2025." And I agree with that, to be honest with you. Like, I obviously wasn't super privy to the scene in 2020 when I was a youngster. I was a fucking junior in high school during that time. But I would tend to agree with what little knowledge I have at that time. I think Nightstar and Pika Pika are definitely the X factor and the duo that we are looking at to kind of determine whether or not this team is going to be like a huge heavy hitter that everyone else is going to have to take notice of, or if they stray a little bit more toward the middle of the pack, maybe potentially the better half of the middle of the pack. And so far they're looking like a top team if Nightstar and Pika Pika can really step up and play around their top sides resource giving. I think Maddie is really good at playing around his lanes, and I do think that this team overall, the way it's structured, is really smart. Like I think that this is a team that could really work like a well-oiled machine. But again, that bot lane is the soul of the team. So you got to get a strong soul, and it looks like they do. They got the mountain soul, strongest in the game.
Strongest in the game. Fair stuff. Fair stuff. All right, let's get into Group E then, which was Chain Vests, Apex Predators, Next Level Esports, and Bikini Bottom Warriors. Apex Predators comes out as number one here over Next Level Esports. That was not my prediction. I had that the other way around. But
really, I had Apex Predators number one.
You had Apex Predators over. I think for me, I was really high on Next Level Esports, mostly because of bot lane. I like that bot lane a lot. The Sagewabe Alcalamity bot lane. I think they're, Alcalamity is one of my big players to watch for 2025. Like I think this guy.
Yes.
If things go my way, I hope to see Alcalamity in NACL next year. So, yeah, I was pretty high on this team for that one. Kitsuo, of course, ex-LCS player. We have 3 ex-LCS junglers in this in this league, so you got to shout out Kitsuo wherever you can. But yeah, I mean it's I don't mean to poo-poo Apex Predators though. I think this is a good close matchup. That's why we featured it on the Salt Mine. But yeah, I mean, in a couple of very bloody, very long games, it's Apex that come out on top. I think in no small part due to Psycho. Psycho, who feels like he's been kind of on the fringe lately, hasn't been like competing on top OQ teams for the last couple of splits, has himself a really good series.
Yeah, I mean, hang on, sorry. I personally think that the big difference maker between that Apex versus NLE series was definitely Psycho. Like I think that there is a I think very few players in the just tier 3 ecosystem as a whole that are good with mages in the bot lane. Like I just do not think that there are a lot of AD carries that can pull that off. And Mel as well has been a champion that's just getting hit like over and over again. Like this champion is so shit compared to when she came out, and that wasn't even that long ago. Somehow Psycho manages to make it work. So huge props to him for being able to play that laning phase out. I think that Ezreal and Karma is really difficult. Obviously, you've got that reflect, but dude, I mean that shit is on like a 30-second cooldown. So you still have to play it well in positioning, and I think he did just that. Another player that I really want to shout out though is unironically Geiger. I have been advocating for Singed to be more popular in pro. I'm gonna probably make a tweet about it in the next couple of days because I think that Singed is a super overlooked top laner. Like I think this guy has shit laning phase, and that's why he proxies a lot. But bro, this champ in team fights is just broken. Like I think Geiger played the Singed really well. And it was a really good time to do it as well. Like I think that Singed going into champions that can't really get away from him, like the Seraphine, the Victor, and the Varus. You're kind of forced to burn your ults in order to get him away, and that just draws so much attention and allows players like Meslo to really get going in that backline. So he did a really good job at drawing pressure in those fights and had a beautiful angle with it. So shout out to him for expanding, I think, that pool a little bit. Obviously it was 2 games. He played the Cho'Gath as well. But I don't know. I just have a lot of respect for players that know how to pilot Cinch because I personally think the champ is really fucking good.
I think that's fair. Definitely a good, a worthy call out. So let's then, more than the loss of Next Level Esports, because my pick'ems do take a little loss there. But props to Apex Predators and how they were able to do, and we'll see how they journey on to the 2-0 bracket. Getting into Group F now, where there's so many tabs in here now. I always have to click around. We have Uncles, Weber State, Gravity, and Galaxy Gaming. And it does look like just today, breaking news, Galaxy Gaming with a 2-0 win over Uncles. So it will be Galaxy moving forward. I think that would have been the prediction. That is my prediction.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't even have Uncles in the finals for this. I had Uncles third. I thought Weber would be able to take him down. Did not work out that way, though. The Unks come on through, but it's still Galaxy Gaming taking first at the end of the day. This team, I mean, continuing on from being an OQ squad, right? Just bringing in Krakodon in jungle, which is great for them. I'm a big Krakodon fan. I've been wanting to see him on a team like this for a while.
Mean, I think Krakodon has taken a bit of a hit into the hype around him because of the BlackRock esports team that he was a part of in the OQs that sort of just fell apart. Like a lot of people had high hopes for that team. Zoo was the coach, and everyone was saying that those guys would certainly make it past GSL. They bombed out a lot quicker than a lot of people anticipated them to. And Krakodon didn't look particularly great in that tournament either. So I think that kind of dampened the hype for him just a little bit. It also didn't help that after that we didn't see a lot of him. Like this is the first really big thing I'm actually seeing from Krakodon since those OQs. So it's good to see that he's still got it. I think he looked really good. I think Inori B is also a player that lost a little bit of hype after BlackRock. Super aggressive AD carry. but a lot of people, questioned whether or not this guy would be able to play things like the Ezreals, be able to play things like, those late game carries. He was super proficient on like the Dravens, the Callistas. And for a while, I put him up there with like players like Sushi, where I was like, man, these guys could be the future. But it never really felt like he broke out of that mold. So it's nice to see him actually play things like the Ezreal and do really well on them. So I am excited for this team because I am in a similar boat with you, Gordo. Like I am hyped around a lot of these newer players in Kraken in Inori B. And I think they're surrounded by some really good, older veteran pieces. Like I think Kim Down being in the ACL is absolutely illegal. Like I think if we are looking at like MVPs to go into that support position, it'll probably be, Kim Down will probably have to compete with players like Diamond, but I could certainly see him making a case for himself to be the best support in the league because he is definitely better than ACL, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Although ACL about to be equal to NACL, so we'll
see. Well, in summer, yes.
In summer, but no, for now, I definitely agree, especially given the quality of competition here now. So for Galaxy, I do want to see a little bit like what kind of bot lanes are these guys playing? So they played an Ezreal Poppy, a Varus Rakan, an Ashe Nico, and a Jhin Nautilus. So kind of seems like they're splitting the diff a little bit here, maybe leaning a little bit more towards Kim Down's area than Inori B's. But that might be good for Inori B. I think he needs to. I think it's more important that the 80 carry learn to play, your more standard 80 carries than that the support learn to play the hyper aggressive stuff. Because that mismatch is something that's been like standing out to me about them as a duo since the OQ. But obviously, at this level, they're certainly capable of being able to execute and get past it here. So, props to Galaxy. Excited to see them in the 2-0 bracket. Let's get over to Group G. That got thrown into a bit of chaos due to the UCI team not being able to field their main roster for week number 1. So it's Prosperity Esports that come out of this group in the 2-0 bracket, dropping only a game to Mint Gaming, but otherwise coming through real strong. So that's Solidified Icelandic, Frozen Titan, Kongji, and Zatzmod/Menace/Julia at support.
Yeah.
A lot of old school names on this team. I'm excited. I'm happy to have Solidified back. It's been a while. I think he had like a wrist injury or something for a while, so I'm glad to see
like
him
that.
back.
I mean, yeah, and like I think that it's cool to see Solidified back, but he certainly wasn't. I think the big carry for this week number 1. Like especially against Mint, looked a little bit shaky. Like they still won a game with him going 2-10 on the goddamn Jace. I think the real savior of this team though is probably Kongji. Like I think Kongji had looked really, really good. I think that this team, they've looked I would say out of all of the top teams that we've talked about so far, they definitely look like the least solid of the bunch. I think that Group G is kind of the next best thing to a group of death, comparative to Group C. Like Kongji managed to pull through, but everyone kind of seemed to struggle a little bit. Like obviously there was a lot of like fluctuation. Like if you even just go and click on the KDAs, if you don't even actually watch the game, I feel like it tells a story. Like I'm just clicking on a random game here against Desperado Esports, who, keep in mind, they 2-0'd, and their victory with Kongji going 3-1 had Icelandic 1-5, Frozen Titan 1-3, and Solidified at 7-5. So there's like some fluctuation going on between these players. Definitely some chaos going on between these players on this team. And that's not to say they're bad. It just seems like that inconsistency might come back if they aren't able to fix it. So I am preaching a little bit of worry for these guys early on. Even though I love KJ, I love Icelandic Hero, I am just tempering myself because I've brought a lot of hype so far to the top teams. So I am allowed just this one air of caution.
That's fair. I think there's teams in the 2-0. I think 4-0 probably a pretty rough ask for this team. I do
Yeah.
think the 2-0 bracket, I think if you pull, and I haven't checked who exactly they're going to get, but I think if you pull like it's not a random draw, right? It's based on your seed initially. So whoever they're playing against is already locked in. I don't have it in front of me right now. Um, I could have it in front of me right now. Let's go see Prosperity. So they're gonna play Apex Predators. It's not the
Yeah.
worst matchup in the world.
Not honestly, yeah. Like that's doable for them, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think there's reason to have a little hype for them. I do think if they get to the 3-0 bracket, it probably stops there. But that I mean, piss easy to make playoffs if you're in the 3-0 bracket. You get 4 chances in a row against increasingly weak teams to just win a best of 3, and then you're in playoffs. That's pretty good stuff, and that'll probably get you a really nice seed, actually. Qualifying fast like that, a really, really good way to get yourself a favorable bracket. So, pretty promising run here coming together for Prosperity. Maybe a little bit off the back of UCI making some errors. And then conversely, Mint Gaming end up in the O2 bracket because of this. Wow, tough opponent to draw in the O2 bracket.
Yeah, definitely. I know PBS is definitely looking forward to that. Wink,
He's
wink.
molding. They could have beaten UCI. They had a real window there. And I mean, this is just a strong team of players, right? Ariana, we just watched go win another big C-Law matchup. A lot of this team we watched just go win a big C-Law matchup. Ariana and Ginkle both over on GVU, and yeah, I mean Verticality, PVS, even Theatrics, which love that rebrand by the way. Theatrics is a great name. Yeah, I mean this is going to be the most dangerous squad in the O2 bracket, I think, almost for certain. Except getting into our last group, Group H, where the O2 representative is Tempest Gaming JLH, my pick for first in the group. Man.
Yeah, I don't know why you did that.
I don't know why I do it anymore either, dude.
Bro, like, okay, listen, I shared a meme in our team's personal chat viewers because Gordo and I are part of a team where kind of an on and off team where we play scrims as casters. And I said something along the lines of like Season of Leaves being on a team after losing one game with Drexer and Snow 2 on as his teammates. And it was like that one picture of the young wolf kid like sitting in the corner while the shadows on the walls were his like 2 parents like fighting. I feel like this team, if where there's fucking smoke, there is fucking fire. If this team goes down, they sink like the goddamn Titanic, and anyone who tries to watch them will implode like the submersible like last year. This team is either going to be super good or super bad, and unfortunately, it was the latter. I just can't bring myself to be high on Drexer. Like
you know what the funniest part is? The funniest part is watching that happen last week, coming to our group chat, being like, "Man, I gotta stop."
He went 0-12. Like
I got
12 and 0.
It's coming. Yeah, it's the worst part is coming back to the group chat after week 1, being like, "Man, I need to stop predicting these teams to win," and then coming in halfway through the week with a screenshot of the roster changes and seeing that they're e-subbing in Sudsy, and being like, "Oh, okay, they're bringing in the big guns now. We're good. Sudsy's coming in," and then they don't play him, and they get 2-0'd by Cal Golden Bears.
It's really bad.
Oh,
it's really fucked. And I actually feel bad for Season of Leaves because I think if there's one player that has a lot of like, bro, I am heartbroken that Season of Leaves is no longer like trying to go pro. Like,
hey man, Season of Leaves has got like 3 more years of ACLs to keep fucking around, so don't worry, he'll be fine.
That is true. He can be like our golden boy when we're all in like fucking wheelchairs, Gordo. But bro, like tangentially, I don't know. Like I can't bring myself to be high on Drexer, and this is why 0-12-0 Casante. I almost want to watch the VOD to see how that happens because
He's macroing all 5 players on one computer. It's actually the meme where he's got like the 4 dummies on either side and they're following his hands. Maybe it's that. Nobody else is logged in.
I don't even want to imagine what it is. He didn't even get 2 items. It's a 27-minute game, and he's sitting with an Iceborne and not even 2 complete items. It's rough.
We're breaking the rules of the format. We're not talking about the team that won. Let's talk about Tempest Gaming. Probably
because it's fascinating.
Here's something else that's fascinating. So Tempest Gaming, probably the most unexpected team at 2-0. This roster is Two Bone, Dredo, Sim, Biostir, and DDoS.
I mean, I predicted this team to go first, to be honest with you.
You did. All right, interesting. I predicted.
The,
I guess I predicted them to go second, so if I was wiser to JLH's shenanigans, I would have actually done it. So fair enough.
Hey man, looking at the other rosters, I'm not super high. Like, okay, my thought process was like, I'm not super high on the other rosters to go first. And I think there's probably a reason why this roster is the main one and not the second seed over these guys.
I figured it was just because they got this one first, and then JLH came in.
I figure it's probably because they're better. And it certainly seems like they played that way.
That's fair. The only other I hope to see a game from this team soon because I don't know Two Bone, I don't know Sim. I think I've watched Biostir play once, and I've
seen Sim before, I think.
Interesting. So I definitely want to check out this team. The other thing that is interesting about this team is that they dropped Dredo today.
Yes.
So he's the big name on this team. They now have SHU Ulper QQ #Saint. Let me deep lol this guy. Do we know who this is? No, this is a Masters player. Well, may not work out going forward the way that it has historically, or maybe it'll continue to work out. I mean, this team is impressed so far. I don't know what happened with them at their jungle position, but curious to see how Ulper will end up doing now that he comes in as likely the starting jungler. I don't think they have another jungler on the roster. Although I'm not going to pretend like I'm super familiar with these other players. No, looks like they are a mid laner and a top laner, respectively. So Ulper's playing jungle for this team, I've got to believe.
Yeah, probably. It's hard to predict this team's future because Dredo was on it, and I think Dredo is really good. I personally, though, was really impressed with what is this name, bro? The problem with you Randys are driving me crazy. Hubone looked really good in the first week. I was really impressed I'm really impressed with these scores. And again, and like to be honest with you, I kind of feel like Group H is a little bit of a group of life, so it'll be interesting. You know, we were talking about how Mint looked like the strongest team in the O2 category. I think that Tempest Gaming looked like potentially one of the weaker teams in the 4-0, 2-0 category. So I'll be interested to see, especially now with this roster change, how it all shakes up.
I will be as well, but that'll about do it for our time here. So excited to come in next week after another week at NACL, and after we're fully done with the GSL group stage, we can start talking about our pick'em results then. So sure to be a fun episode then, but that'll do it for now. So make sure you guys tune into ACL on Friday. We'll have a TSM stream. We'll have an Aegis stream as always, and check out the NACL this week as the standings continue to solidify. It's been fun.
And CLOL. Don't forget about CLOL.
CLOL going on. Yeah, I think I'm going to be on Salty Run Back tomorrow, maybe. I don't know.
Wednesday. And then I'm going to be on Thursday.
Yeah. So what is it today? It's Monday today. So
It's Monday.
It's Monday today, but it'll be Tuesday when this drops. I'm going to try to drop this midday on Wednesday because dropping it Wednesday morning for Wednesday start of NACL was miserable. So I'm gonna try to drop this tomorrow afternoon as soon as I finish editing it, and we'll see how that does. If this time works for you, like the video and everything, so that the algorithm likes it more, because it's tough to fit into the new schedule. NACL schedule has sunk our show, has sunk all that we've built up over the last couple of years. But yeah, we'll be back in with a full cast hopefully next week. Until then, take it easy.